Hello, everybody, and welcome in to episode 50 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined by Josh Amiling, everybody. Josh Amiling has been on the show a few times now. The first time, I believe, was like our second ever show when he had to fill in as a co-host because Nick had a wedding. And then obviously he was on for Seattle Mariners podcast last year and for another podcast for an NFL midseason review too. So all around the league here for sports, we're bringing him back this time to talk about his Seattle Mariners though. But first off, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Lucas. I got my 4th of July Mariners hat here. It's not really starting with I got this. Watched Felix pitch. Watched them give up an opening home run on the second pitch of the game. We lost that game, but it was chill.
Well, there you go. I figured I'd rep the only Mariners thing I have in a Paul Ken Griffey Jr. jersey here.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, nonetheless, so really cool. Yeah, gotta rep the Mariners hat. The Seattle Kraken T-shirt too.
Yes,
I'm loving
it. Yes, sir.
Gotta rep the new hockey team. But first off, yeah, we'll just get right into it here. The Mariners last season, well, probably about what you expected. Obviously, with the shortened season, only 60 games being played, they finished 27-33, which was good for third place in the AL West. So go ahead, you just run me through what happened last season. Is that kind of how you expected, or overperform, underperform? What do you think?
That's about what I expected. I listened to last year's pod actually in our preview, and it was a lot of me saying like, I think we're going to be bad, but we're not going to be worse than like the worst teams in the league, and I think that bore out. If you take the 27-33 record and put it over an entire 162 game schedule, well, technically we get 72.9 wins. I'll round it up, so we're 73 in wins there, and that's honestly that's middle of the road. That's about where I thought we were. I mentioned on the podcast last year, we got a bunch of young guys coming in. Hopefully they show up. We got some older guys. Hopefully we can trade at the trade deadline for stuff, and we did. So overall, about what I expected. Just an average year.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I did too. I didn't really have any expectations for the Mariners. There was kind of a lot of unknowns going into the season. I guess as far as, I don't think I want to say there wasn't something to be excited for, because there's always players that you're going to watch the game to watch those players for. But I don't think there was, as much of a hype around the season as maybe there has been in years past. Maybe that was kind of expected though.
Yeah, it was a lot of just like keep your expectations down. We might have a few games here and there that we rattle off in typical Mariners fashion. We went on a few hot streaks, but then it kind of bore out overall. We were just against the middle class, and then against the top teams we got slaughtered. But again, like against the bottom feeders, we basically destroyed them. So it was good for us overall. This was a nice season, which was a lot better than what we've had in other years. So.
And for the most part, a fairly young team too. There was a lot of younger players just kind of trying to make their name for the team. Obviously, probably the biggest name amongst the young ones was Kyle Lewis in the outfield. Obviously, taking home Rookie of the Year for the AL was a huge honor. So talk about him for a second. Obviously, now was this a guy that was ranked pretty high in the Mariners farm system kind of throughout his years with them?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly when he was drafted, but I remember he was drafted, I think, 13th overall in the first round. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, this guy, he's just overall, he's going to be really, really solid. Unfortunately, his first year in the minors, he tore his ACL. And so he had a setback, but he finally came up 2 years ago, like a September call-up. He did pretty good. Then last season, it was a lot of seeing, okay, how can he do, granted, over a short season, but still a whole season. What can he do? Can he hold up in center field? Like, he's built. People thought maybe he's not athletic enough to play center field. He played kind of in the corners his first year up and in the minors. But last season, he hit really well. He still hit for average. He's like a good hitter. He's a power hitter, but he has good at bats, which is good for a guy with not that much experience as compared to everyone else. And his defense, he held up in center field really, really well, which is something that was great to see because again, like with the other guys we have coming up, um, there might have been a log jam if he had to play a corner outfield, but seeing him in center and just again the versatility because he can play the other outfield positions. Well, except for right field, he kind of looked awful in right field, but left field he's pretty good. Center again, really, really good. He had a few plays where he was robbing people. I remember
Yeah.
there was like was it in August or something? I think it's August. There's like a bunch of wildfires in Canada. The smoke blew down, so it was like a hazy game in Seattle. Ball hit out to like that deep left center field part of
Yep.
Safeco Field. Now T-Mobile.
Yeah. That's
I still
right.
call it Safeco. It's still hard. It was hit out into the fog, and you still see Lewis just rise above. I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Ken Griffey Jr.-esque kind of catch.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those where it's like he's had a second at the wall to jump. It's like full on running and jumping, catching. So overall, just a really solid, good year from Lewis, and again, Rookie of the Year. And I think he's gonna keep. I hope he keeps improving, but I think he's well set to keep improving.
Also, one thing I just thought of, the Seattle Mariners and good defensive outfielders, mainly center fielders, is just like cream with coffee.
I
It's
know.
just like it's something that's expected. You got Kyle Lewis, obviously, Ken Griffey Jr., Franklin Gutierrez, arguably is one of the best defensive center fielders out there. I mean, Eacher, I know he didn't play much center field, it was mainly right field, but I mean, Gold Glover there. Jay Buhner is solid. They have had a lot of phenomenal defensive outfielders in their time.
I know. It's been fun to watch. Like a fly ball out there. It's just like, all right, who's gonna catch it? It's been a good time.
And it's going to be a highlight play too. It's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of what's expected. Um, so nice, yeah. So let's talk about your manager Scott Servais. He's been there a little bit now. How do you like him personally? Are you a fan of him?
yeah, yeah. I'm a fan of his, and I remember watching again. I rewatched the podcast from last season, and I said that I didn't think he could be a guy to help a contending team. After seeing what he did last year, I think I'm gonna reverse that. Not that I didn't think he could. I didn't. I didn't think he was like the guy. I said I was fine with him, but now today I'm completely fine with keeping him through all the way. Let's use him. Let's ride it out. Let's see what happens. Because again, I talked about him building a winning culture, keeping guys engaged, even though probably not going to be contending. But he did. He's done more than that. Like he's kept like the veteran guys that we had. He's kept them engaged. He's developed these young guys pretty well. He's a nice fiery manager who like when he sees like okay like maybe calls aren't going his guy's way, and instead of getting like one of his guys thrown out, he'll go get himself thrown out on purpose just to be like okay, everyone's gonna cool down. I'll sacrifice myself for this. He's a cool guy. He's a funny guy, too. There's like the local radio host, now they're podcasters, but he said, "Hey, I'll pitch to you guys. I'll do BP." And he was like kind of throwing them like soft, like nice 70-mile-per-hour balls right down the middle, and they were like hitting them. And then he started throwing them curveballs and making them look like fools. And he was laughing at them. He's just an overall, he's just a good dude. Um, and then again with baseball wise, I think he's got it. He's got what it takes to have a be a manager of a contending team.
Yeah, so I think the biggest concern last season of becoming the main struggle for the Seattle Mariners was the bullpen. The bullpen had a lot of issues, a lot of struggles. Last season, they had the highest bullpen ERA in the American League at 5.92. Now, Jerry DePoto, who is the GM, did end up acquiring Rafael Montero, who we'll get to in a moment, who was 8 for 8 in the save opportunities for the Rangers last year. So that's got to be nice. But I guess outside of bullpen, was there any other things that kind of weren't looking great? I mean, obviously, you have an under 500 record. You can probably point at a number of things. But besides the bullpen, was there anything else that was really like a really main concern for them?
I guess I don't know because overall we were pretty solid. I guess maybe shortstop. Not that I don't like J.P. Crawford, a young shortstop. He's great on defense, but I think overall he'll be better suited to move to second base when it's said and done, defensive wise. Not that he can't play shortstop. He's played pretty good at shortstop, but I think his ceiling is much higher at second base. Starting pitching, I guess, is another one where Marco Gonzalez was good. Yusei Kikuchi, he's kind of been a downer. Guy coming over from Japan, he's kind of been meh. Kind of showed out like the last month of the season, but eh. We've had other guys show up for the starting pitching, like kind of pop up here and there, but it wasn't too inspiring seeing the pitching overall, I guess. So I guess it's pitching, maybe shortstop. But overall, everyone else was young or they were veterans who we shipped at the deadline. So
Yeah.
there wasn't anyone where I was watching like, ugh, this is awful. So overall, encouraging.
Sure, that's good. That's good. So I guess we'll go into the off season now. For the most part, it's been a pretty quiet off season. I think probably, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you had high expectations going into the off season, but for the most part, pretty quiet for the Mariners. They signed reliever Ken Giles to a contract who last season, or sorry, a couple seasons ago in 2019, he had 23 saves, 83 strikeouts, and a 187 earned run average. This is a guy that's kind of been under the radar, but has had some decent success in the league so far. So I'm sure you got to like that signing.
Yeah, Giles is good. I did see though. I think he's out for this year with like Tommy John, but he's
Yeah.
supposed to. This is basically a trade for 2 years down the line. So again, you just talked about how our bullpen's been awful, and it's kind of how it's been the past couple years, where we kind of bring in guys, and then anyone who's good, they're not good enough to keep, so we trade them at the deadline. So Giles, I think that's a good guy to see 2 years from now. Um, we'll see, because again, coming off of injury, guys are, as medicine gets better and everything, guys come back faster, throwing harder, but we'll see how it is. You never know.
You brought back a familiar face too. Roenis Elias brought him back on a minor league deal, I believe. Um, that's got to be nice. Obviously, this is a guy that's had some success with the Mariners, and bringing him back here. Do you expect him to make the club out of spring training?
I think so because he's got good versatility where he's been a starter for us, but then kind of a reliever. And I think he's gonna make it just where he can show up a few times to be a relief pitcher. And it's kind of funny. The last time he was with the club was 2 years ago now. I'm trying to remember because everything's, what is time? But
Right.
he was traded at the trade deadline to the Nationals, and then he didn't actually help them win the World Series, but he was on that roster. So I think that might be another thing again where he's kind of one of the older guys. He's not that old. He's only 32, I think, where he shows up, pitches pretty well. We trade him at the trade deadline again just to keep bumping up our minor leagues, just give us a lottery pick. So I think he'll make it because again, he's familiar with us. We're familiar with him. So
Chris Flexen. I'm just going through him. I hadn't heard of him. You signed him. He was in Korea. 26 years old, 2-year, $4.75 million contract. Was with the Mets his initial years, but never really came out to anything. He went 8-4 with a 3.01 ERA and 21 starts for the Dunsan Bears in Korea. And now maybe he'll get an opportunity. Is this a guy that I didn't? I'm gonna be honest. Until I started reading this article, I had never heard of him. But what can you expect from him? Maybe you know a little bit more about him than me.
yeah, I don't know that much. I know I just looked up his measurables. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 225. So he's a solidly built guy. Um, Looking at stuff in like the KBO, he's just pretty good over there. He's not like a super flamethrower, but he still throws hard. He's got some good off speeds. Just an overall, I think just a nice solid guy. I think he's expected to be one of our. We're running a 6-man rotation, so I think he's
Okay.
supposed to like be guaranteed, especially with that additional spot. And like the deal, it's not that much of a deal, and he did solid in Korea, and he's got some stuff still, so he can come over here and we see what he's got. And then if he doesn't really work out, it's not that much money to be paying a guy. So
Right. Kind of, if it works out, then great, awesome. If not, well, you're not really out anything either. So can't go wrong with that. Kenyon Middleton, the former Angels reliever, brought him in on a 1-year deal. This guy, 27 years old, can throw heat. I think 97, 98 is about what he tops out at from what I've been hearing. Now, this is a guy that I'm really excited about for you. I think he's going to be a great fit for you guys.
yeah, and again, 1-year deal. It's another flyer guy. Um, Again, it's going to be a lot of me repeating myself, but I think he's a guy who comes in. We've seen him because with the Angels, we've seen him a few times. familiar with him. Hopefully, we can harness that flame throwing power. Maybe he sticks around with us long enough, or most likely, going to be another trade target for a contending team where we ship him off for a prospect. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I've liked what I've seen from him because again, he just throws heat, and you can't get enough of that. So.
And Jerry Dipoto actually drafted him when he was Anaheim's GM in 2013, so he has some familiarity there, which is really, really nice to have as well, too. Hopefully can know what you can kind of expect for him. Had Tommy John in 2018 as well, too, but hopefully that's not an issue for you guys. And then you traded for the Rangers closer, Rafael Montero. Gave up a couple guys, a 17-year-old Jose Corniel, and a player to be named later. Corniel, I believe what they're saying here was Seattle's 24th ranked prospect, but obviously Montero is ready now. He's had success. I'm sure you're probably okay with this one, especially giving up 17-year-old guy. Who knows? That's a lot. That's a lot of years you gotta wait.
Yeah, Montero is a nice, solid dude. We didn't really have a closer last season, or like a clear guy. We haven't really had a clear guy for a while. So it's nice. It's still like you want to have a closer on your team, even if you're like the Mariners, you're like kind of rebuilding. So let's get this guy again. Probably trade him at the deadline, but then again, maybe we keep him around and let's see what happens with him. Because if he can be good, maybe we lock him down. And as the Mariners are supposed to be getting better, he is our closer of the future. But just a nice like, all right, let's see what we got with this guy, and we didn't give up that much for him. So again, just another just solid, ready to go player.
A lot of interdivisional signings, guys that played in the AL West. So that's, I don't know if that was just happened to be that way or if that was probably part of the strategy is, well, let's get guys who are familiar with the division and, kind of know what to expect. I think that's got to be a huge, huge plus there for sure.
Yeah, it's nice. Just we know about them, and I've seen some people saying maybe like, are we just looking at retreads from other teams? But I don't know. It's good because we can get intel on other players from other teams now. Again, these guys are familiar with everyone else, and maybe they're familiar with us. That maybe they can be like, hey, I know why this guy keeps striking out on whatever pitch. I don't know. Just nice thing to bring in familiarity.
And you also brought back familiar face two and James Paxton as well. That was a couple days ago. I spent the last couple years at the Yankees. Obviously, I was with the Mariners. Absolutely balled out for him. Do you expect him to have the same amount of success with the Mariners like he did the first time around, or what can you kind of expect from him?
Probably not, because even when he was with the Mariners, he struggled with injuries. But he's still, when he was on, he's on. And I think just the good thing is with him coming in is that he's a veteran presence, but not just a veteran presence. He went to the Yankees. He's been like in a winning culture. He can come back and like help the young guys out, like teach them some things. And he's still good. And maybe after this year, maybe if we want to bring him back, we can bring him back again because he knows us and we know him. So it's just nice to get a familiar face that is still good and can come in and bring in some good veteran leadership.
Absolutely. So now, right here for you, I have the Seattle Mariners depth chart. Okay, now this is from ESPN. So I'm going to go through it. I'll just do position by position and let me know what you think about it. If ESPN is off, if they're on, if you would make any, changes, adjustments. Manager Amiling over here. So starting with the pitching rotation, they have Marco Gonzalez, James Paxton, UC Kikuchi, Eustace Sheffield, and Nick Marchivius. Does that sound about right? And probably the what's his name that you got from Japan too, from
Flexen.
Yep, for the 6-man rotation.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, Marco, he's our ace. We signed him last year, 2 years ago, to a contract extension on like a contending team, like a really serious contending team. He's probably a high end number 3, but he's got the mentality of an ace. So that's good. You say, I mean, again, I had higher hopes for him. A guy coming over from Japan, those guys come over and they're just super solid. He's been iffy, but showed out a little bit, so we'll see what happens there. Flexen, I think the way they're talking about, he's probably another one of the guys. And then Justice Sheffield, nice young guy who struggled the first time he came up. We sent him back down to the minors, like to get himself right. Figured it out. He's come back up and he's been really solid. And then, so that's 4. Paxton's probably 5th, just because, like, again, familiar, he's ready to go. And then, like, the last 2 spots, again, because we're running a 6-man rotation. Justin Dunn, and looking at it, because Flexen would be, like, the only right-handed pitcher in the rotation. Dunn is also a right-handed pitcher. Nice, solid young guy, probably a solid number 3 at his highest. Maybe a 2.
Okay.
But just a nice guy to have. And then Nick Mar, I have the pronunciation because it's hard. Margavagis. He's a nice, solid guy who's, again, flexible between bullpen and starter. Was mostly starter for us last year. Again, just like we don't have like a clear number 1 like ace in the hole. But I mean, how many teams actually have that? Overall, I think just a nice, solid rotation. Again, 6-man rotation. Limit the starts for guys. Keep them fresher. I think ESPN's got it pretty right. It's gonna be like come down to like the last like 4, 5, 6. Really, what we'll see. But I think there might be a lot of shuffling of guys too. So.
Sure. And then as far as the bullpen goes, obviously it's hard to tell, who's going to be in what role. Obviously, probably besides Rafael Montero and closer. But with Kenyon Middleton, Johan Ramirez, Anthony Mizuich.
I can still never get his name right.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better then. Brandon Brennan, and then Casey Sadler. How does that sound? Anyone else missing there?
There's been talk of some other guys, not that notable. Maybe Elias.
Okay.
But overall, again, our bullpen, it's not really supposed to be that high end. And again, I think these are going to be guys we're going to be using as pieces to trade. Just get more prospects, keep building up. And you know how it is with relief pitchers. Like 1 year you're really good, and the next year you fall off the map. So who knows?
Yeah. And then catcher, they have Luis Torrens over Tom Murphy. I know Tom Murphy really balled out for you guys here, and I'm familiar with him. Was with the Colorado Rockies before too. Does that seem right to you? I don't know. I maybe put Murphy above.
I think we might be platooning them again. That's what we've done the
Okay.
past 3 years with our catchers. And Murphy, he is coming off a fractured foot.
Right.
So getting back into it. Torrens, he came in, I believe he came in the trade from the Padres, and he's kind of a guy who everyone's saying, oh, he's pretty good. He came in and he played the final 18 games and he had 15 hits. So that's pretty good. He is a little raw though, and so it's good to have a guy like Murphy. He's been super solid since he came here. I believe, it's going to be one of those where it's a platoon of these guys.
Evan White at first base. That one's kind of a no-brainer there. I don't think there's much debate for that one.
Yeah, Evan White, solid young guy. We signed him to like a 6-year deal. It wasn't actually that much money, but it was like a 6-year deal when he was still in AA. And defensively, he's really good. His hitting, he's figuring it out. He's a good hitter, but sometimes he's still a young guy, he shows. But he's only 24. I like what we've got there.
Dylan Moore at second base.
Yeah. It's a fight between him and Shed Long for second. Both those guys are just like super utility players. But like Moore really showed out last year that he's more than just a utility player. He can be an everyday starter. I'm pretty sure he can be. But not to take away from he's still I say a super utility, not to say he doesn't have one position. He's just really good at playing whatever position we throw him at. Shed Long is small dude who swings like he's 300 pounds. He's just fun to watch, but his defense was a little iffy, and that approach at the plate sometimes gets him in trouble. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be more, but then also keeping Shed Long around just because he's a nice, exciting player.
Then you got old man Kyle Seager at third base, manning that down. How much longer do you think Seager has? First off, I guess first, do you see him being the starting third baseman? I would assume so. And then secondly, how much longer does Seager have?
Yeah, I think, again, we're trying to be a young team, build us up, but you still need veteran presence around. And Seager, he's starting to find, like, I think last year or maybe even 2 years ago, finally figured out, hey, I don't need to be the big hulking like slug like 30, 40 home runs a year for third baseman. Just be the guy who hits doubles, can pop off for 20 home runs, play really, really. He has a Gold Glove, played Gold Glove defense. The thing was, when he tried to be a slugger, he bulked up, and like tighter muscles and everything. He just had a bunch of weird injuries. Finally slimmed down. He has a poison pill in his contract where it's like if he's traded, I believe the last year or two become like a player option or something. So he hasn't been tradable, but I think he plays out the rest of his contract here because he's come back to form where he's going to hit probably like 280, 290, play just about Gold Glove defense, and just be a nice, solid veteran presence for us to have.
Yeah, that's big time. That's big time. Especially, too, with such a young team, to have a guy that's had success in the league, too, with all these younger guys coming up, that's huge for sure.
Yeah.
And you got J.P. Crawford at shortstop. I'm assuming that's probably pretty set in stone there as well, too.
Yeah.
Hopefully to get a little more consistent play from him, though, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's got great defense overall, but I think like again, like I said earlier, putting him at second base could unlock so much more. And he's a nice, solid hitter. Sometimes a little streaky, but just a good, fast guy, and he's just an electric, fun dude to have too. So, yeah, he can be a shortstop in the league, but I'd like to see him move over to second base.
Okay. And then for the outfield, they have Jose Marmelos in left, obviously Kyle Lewis in center, and Mitch Haniger in right field as well too. Seem pretty okay with that?
Yeah, maybe Braden Bishop can come up and do some things. Jake Fraley is a guy who I've heard talked about for left field. Taylor Trammell, he's another guy who came over in the trade with the Padres last year, where I think he's a left field. I can't remember off the top of my head. But our outfield situation is pretty well set. We've got a bunch of good, talented guys where we could move some guys around. So
now let me ask you this: Jared Kalenic, who I believe is your top prospect, is he, you think, maybe at some point makes an appearance this season? It's kind of nice with the DH role. Maybe you put him in the DH. But what do you think for him? Do you think he makes a shot this year?
technically, well, I'm looking at Baseball America's rankings. Technically, he's the fourth overall prospect, and
Okay.
we have the third overall prospect in Julio Rodriguez, who's also an outfielder. Those two guys are supposed to be the guys who come up, and then we have Kyle Lewis, and then Kelenic, and then Julio Rodriguez.
Okay.
But both are still really young. Looking at their ages, Kelenic is 21, Julio Rodriguez is 20, and Kelenic, I think he's only had like 92 plate appearances. Oh, I'm trying to remember. No, it's 92 games. Yeah, 92 games, I think, played total at like high A baseball. And I'm pretty sure he would have been moved up to double A last year, but then last year happened.
Right.
So, not that his growth isn't stunted, like, they still have the workouts and everything, like the teams and everything. And he's gotten in work. Probably.
Okay.
I don't think I think a September call-up as opposed to a midseason call-up, because I still think like we want to like keep him working. We don't want to bring him up too early. He thinks he's ready. Like he's borderline cocky, but like he's not a bad guy. He's just super confident in himself, which is like fun to see. Like in like training sessions against our pitchers, he hits home runs and he'll like stare them down and trash talk them, which is kind of funny. But yeah, him and Rodriguez, I think we might bring them up late in the year to see if they got probably Kelenic more than Rodriguez. Rodriguez has had some time down in like winter ball leagues in the Dominican. I can't remember now, the Dominican, I think, area.
Okay.
But yeah, these two guys, they're our future. But I think we gotta chill on them right now. I don't want to like mess them up, and not that I don't think they can succeed, but
You don't want to rush something.
Exactly. I think they'd come in and they'd do good, but I think if we let them sit and learn, they can come in, they'll be great. So.
And especially when you're a team that I don't think is really expected to do much soon, and these guys, you are kind of banking on them potentially being the future there. So you don't want to rush something, have them come up when they're not ready, and then when it comes time for Seattle to start wanting to be contenders, not saying they don't want to now. Obviously, you want to win, but realistically, probably is not going to happen. Yeah, I don't think you rush them. So I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. Um, any other names? Any other names to the roster that we should look out for next year? Maybe some underlying guy that no one's heard of that people should look out for?
Yeah, it's a lot of our young guys, honestly. Ty France, not necessarily young, but I don't think he's played that much. He's 26. He's probably going to be a DH. He's probably going to be in our DH role. Duke can hit, and I don't know if he's our DH of the future, but like last year we had Daniel Vogelbach, who 2 years ago was really good. Then last year he just fell off a cliff. So Ty France, maybe that's a guy. And then again, looking at our young guys, Logan Gilbert is the 35th overall rated prospect by Baseball America. He's been in the minor leagues a few years. I think he would have came up last year if last year hadn't happened. And he might be a midseason call-up, actually. It's got good stuff there. Emerson Hancock was drafted last year, and he was actually on the taxi squad. And there were some talks, probably not that serious, but that he could get called up to the big league roster like right away. He's 57 by Baseball America. Just again another solid right-handed pitcher. Noelvi Marte is the shortstop who I think might be our shortstop of the future. He's 73. Just a good, solid overall player. And then I mentioned Taylor Chandler earlier, and then George Kirby, another pitcher who just missed Baseball America's top 100, who has been doing stuff, and again might have been a late season call-up if it was a regular year last year, who we might hear about. And I don't know, maybe with some of these guys, as we are kind of on the up and up, maybe some of these guys might not make the team per se, but we might be seeing them in a trade for a bigger player when it's all said and done.
Sure. Well, that's good to know. So yeah, be on the lookout for those guys as well too. Anybody listening to this. So now everybody's favorite time, predictions. Predictions are always fun. Well, I can say this with a lot of confidence. I think the Mariners will have a far better season than the Rockies will, and I don't even think it's going to be close. So how do you think the Mariners are going to do?
I think, okay, so if last year we would have finished with 73 wins, probably, how it's going, I feel like maybe.
I think you have a lot of question marks for players. I think you have guys that could do good, but I don't know.
Probably. Can I give a range of wins?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
or just where you think they'll finish in the division or whatever.
Okay, division we finished like third, maybe third again.
Yeah.
Finished in the 70 to 80 win range because we are better than last year. I think we're gonna bring in some younger guys, see what they do. So I think 70 to 80, third in the division again. Everyone's saying, oh, maybe the Mariners have a chance to make the playoffs this year. I mean, everyone does. And then, but I think I don't want us to yet because I think this isn't our year. Clearly, maybe next season we can start thinking about it. And then definitely 2 years from now, that's when we should, okay, let's go. All of our young guys should be here. All of our contracts should be gone. So I think this is just another year. See what we got out of the young guys. See what we got with our middle veterans, and then our true old veteran guys. Have them just come and mentor. Then hopefully we can move their contracts out of here, so we can start paying and going to get the big free agents. So I think. I mean, of course I'm gonna be watching, but I'm not gonna be like, oh man, we lost that game in the ninth inning on something. I mean, I'll still probably be upset, but I'm not gonna be like, in the grand scheme of things, we'll be just fine. We'll be a solid team. We won't be awful to watch. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think the Mariners are going to be around a 500 team, probably finishing around third in the division. I could see them in the next coming years having a lot of success because that division is not great. The Rangers are not good. The Angels are not good. Oakland has lost a few pretty key players, the last couple seasons. And obviously trading Chris Davis and now losing Marcus Semien in the offseason as well, too. And then the Astros obviously losing George Springer. All of those guys aren't getting any younger. I mean, I still think the Astros are going to be at the top of the division. But I really, this year I don't see them making the playoffs. But next year I think it's a real possibility that if the Mariners can hit on these young guys that they've been really banking on, maybe that those outfielders in your farm system make an appearance, and they can really, make a difference and help out the team. I think maybe next season the Mariners are a playoff team. Not this year, though. Not this year.
Yeah, and like you kind of touched on it, but I think looking at it in a 3 to 5 year window, Houston, they're probably starting a slow decline.
Yeah.
The Angels, I wouldn't say they're in a decline. They're just here.
Yeah.
They're just solid, just here.
Yeah.
Texas, they're in like a deep rebuild, so we don't have to worry about them for a bit. Hopefully, like stay away, Texas. The Astros, no matter what, they always find a way to win like 90 games this season. But again, like you said, they lost key players. So if we look at it, 3 years from now, it might just be us and the Athletics. Excuse me, the Athletics. It might just be us and the Athletics fighting for the division, and I think it might just be us, honestly, because everyone's going down, and I think we're going up. I think we've timed it perfectly. Hopefully,
so. You've sucked for just long enough, and you've been below average, but now you're gonna prowl.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, though. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the Mariners do this year. I think they're one of the more underrated teams to watch out for. Not so much that I think they're going to make a huge playoff run, but just because they have a lot of really young players and a lot of fun guys that, we've seen Kyle Lewis and what he did last season, and to know there's more of that just waiting in the wings. I'm excited to see those guys come up and see if they can have a huge impact on the Mariners. I think they can.
I hope so. And I just got this last thing here where in 2018, Baseball America had our minor league system last. Like, we were awful. And then coming into this year, they had us at number 2. So
wow, that's a quick turnaround, too.
I know, we swung guys around and everything, and just like the future's looking up. Like, we have a team that can field, that can go out there and will be competitive. But seeing a minor league system, and again, they're just projections, but these projections are pretty good.
Yeah.
We've got something cooking here, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the hope, at least. That's the hope. Nice. So at the end of the show now, I believe last time we were on, we did get your favorite Mariner of all time, if I'm not mistaken. We did get that right?
Yeah.
Did I ask you that question? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a couple other ones now. So what is your favorite Seattle Mariners moment? It could be a regular season game and a random during July. It can be, some playoff moment. What is for you the most exciting Mariners moment in your opinion?
I mean, of course, there's like the 95 ALDS against the Yankees. But I wasn't allowed to see that. I did mention last time, like, there's like a walk-off home run by Ichiro off Rivera. But I think another one I can add to that is, and I kind of forgot about it. It got buried, but someone brought it up to me last year, and like I went and like checked out the highlights and stuff. It was some random like mid-week game. Like, no one was really there because it was like later in the season. The Mariners are bad. We're playing, I believe, we're playing the Blue Jays. Yeah, and I was like kind of paying attention to it on the radio because I'm like, okay, I needed something in the background while I'm like doing homework, and we were like down maybe 8-9 runs, and then like we just started chipping away, and then we won it on like a random walk off, and it just it was fun just because like, again, like, even though I haven't seen this team make the playoffs in my lifetime, hopefully I will. It's just like they have random games like that sometimes. Like another one, I didn't see it at all, but because I was in the Philippines and the time difference. But like we came back from like 13 down against the Padres in like starting like the 5th inning, and that's like another one where it's just like fun. But I didn't see that, so I'll say like the Blue Jays random comeback on some random night. I don't even remember when.
Well, that's pretty cool though. Yeah, coming back from that much, yeah, that's not easy, but that is really, really cool to see for sure. Um, Now, what is your favorite non-Seattle Mariners moment in baseball?
Favorite? Okay. Oh, there are so many, and this is going to be kind of some recency bias, but I was watching. It was what I can't even remember what game it was now, but the Rays and the Dodgers. I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, Rays down one, bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs. Send up this Phillips guy who I have no idea who's like an awful hitter. And I'm like, okay, who's at second base? It's Kevin Kiermaier, who's like the fastest man on the planet. So okay, anything to outfield, he's scoring, game tied. There's a single to center field. Like, okay, Kiermaier. I was saying it out loud because my dad was watching, and I immediately said Kiermaier scored, we're tied. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And then Chris Taylor, former Mariner, who we unfortunately let go, and then he figured out launch ankle, so he started to become a good hitter. Like the year after we let him go, he's out in center field. He botches the ball, and I'm like, oh no, Randy Arozarena's coming around, and they're gonna send him. And then I'm like, oh no, Arozarena fell, and I'm just freaking out. And my dad, who's kind of a chill guy, my dad's even like freaking out, and my little brother, who like doesn't really watch baseball, he was just yelling, just making noises because I was making noises. And then you see Arozarena just like kind of fall and just kind of scoot and like slap the plate because like I hate the Dodgers. So I'm like, yes, to beat the Dodgers, and unfortunately the Dodgers went on to win the World Series. But
That was
just
an
such a
exciting moment.
that was just a super cool moment because again, like in the past few years, I've been like at college watching the World Series. But like being able to watch it with my dad was really really cool, and like
Yeah, absolutely.
that was just cool.
Memory you're always going to remember for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. Cool. Well, we're at the end of the show now, Josh. Thank you for coming on once again. We've had you on in the past, and I'm sure we'll have you on in the future. So I hope you had a good time here.
Of course, man. Always.
Absolutely. So go ahead and promote anything you want to promote here. I know you have your blog that you do and stuff, and you're pretty active on Twitter. And give out your Twitter handle as well too, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So I used to be the Sports by JR blog. Um, I realized that I just do mostly football. Like I love other sports. I'm here talking baseball, but like my real love is like football. So I changed it to the almost always football blog, AAF. Rip to the original AAF. That
Yeah.
league was something. Um, you can find me at Josh_Ray_A, and then I also have a podcast which like I haven't done anything with, but you never know. It's at it's this is an organized pod. It's at T organized pod. That's all one word. I didn't know what I was doing with the at there, but it is what it is. So you can follow me there. Follow me on Twitter because I'm there on odd hours, just pretty much 24/7 because I have no life. But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully see me there. Hopefully I'm coming out with sometime soon. Hopefully like my favorite college football games of the past season. It's a really long article which I've been slacking on just because there's so many games. Because I watch like Texas State games. Have you ever heard of Texas State?
I
Exactly, exactly. But yeah,
yeah.
that's why this article's taking so long. But that should come out really soon. Yeah, hopefully I can be on for future stuff, man.
Absolutely. No, you're definitely going to come back. That's for sure. Folks, also, if you're a Florida Gators fan, I would suggest not following him because he has to remind me at least 1, 2 times a week of Marco Wilson hucking the shoe against LSU and us losing the game and us losing our chances of making college football playoffs this year. He's always has to throw, and it's never even directed at me. He doesn't even at me. I'll just see some random thing and he's commenting on it. Marco Wilson throwing the shoe, but since I'm following him, it pops up and reminds me of that. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
I won't apologize because it's completely entertaining for me to do, and it's not even directed at you. Like honestly,
No.
little spoiler alert. That is like one of my like top games of the year in that article that I'll be releasing
Okay.
sometime.
Okay. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, well, if you want to follow myself on Twitter, you can follow me at Lucas_Dorton for that. If you want to follow the podcast at DND_podcast for that. And then if you want to follow Nick on Twitter, you can follow him at Doetkott as well, too, even though he's not here. But folks, be sure to follow my Twitter handles and Josh's Twitter handles as well too. He does a great job with his sports blogs and stuff. A very, very knowledgeable guy for sure. So definitely check him out. But subscribe, share it to all that stuff, all my stuff as well too. But thank you, Josh, for coming on once again. I appreciate it. And this is the end of episode 50. So as for Josh and myself, until next time, we are out.